What if I told you that a single strand of ancient DNA pulled from a bone frozen in permafrost for over 20,000 years has completely rewritten what scientists thought they knew about the giant Ice Age bison? This is not just another extinct animal story. This is a genetic mystery that has left researchers stunned, forced textbooks to be rewritten, and revealed a secret about our modern cattle and buffalo that nobody saw coming. By the end of this video, you will understand why paleontologists call this one of the most shocking DNA discoveries of the last decade. Picture the world roughly 50,000 years ago. Vast grasslands stretch from Spain to Alaska, an unbroken sea of grass known as the Mammoth Steppe. Woolly mammoths roam in herds. Saber-toothed cats stalk the tall grass. And towering above almost every other grazing animal is a creature so massive it seems almost impossible. This is the giant Ice Age bison. And some species, like Bison latifrons, stood nearly 2.5 meters tall at the shoulder and carried horns spanning over 2 meters from tip to tip. That is wider than a king-size bed. These were not the bison you picture wandering the American plains today. These were giants built for a brutal, frozen world. For decades, scientists studied these animals using only what fossils could tell them: bone structure, horn shape, tooth wear. It was educated guesswork built on stone and mineral. But bones can only tell you so much. They cannot tell you who an animal's ancestors were, how populations moved across continents, or how a species survived while so many others around it went extinct. To answer those questions, scientists needed something far more delicate and far more revealing. They needed DNA. The problem is that ancient DNA is incredibly fragile. It degrades over time, breaking into smaller and smaller fragments, contaminated by soil bacteria, sunlight, and thousands of years of chemical decay. Extracting a usable genetic sample from a bone this old was once considered nearly impossible. But breakthroughs in ancient DNA sequencing, the same kind of technology used to study Neanderthals and woolly mammoths, finally gave researchers a way in. And what they found inside the frozen bones of these giant bison shocked everyone involved. The first major surprise came from studying the population history hidden inside the DNA. Scientists expected to find a relatively stable population of giant bison that slowly declined as the Ice Age ended. Instead, the genetic record showed something far more chaotic. The DNA revealed repeated and dramatic population crashes, moments where the number of breeding individuals dropped so low that the entire species came dangerously close to vanishing, long before humans ever arrived with spears and fire. These bottlenecks were tied to climate swings, sudden warming and cooling events that reshaped the grasslands these animals depended on. In other words, the giant bison were already living on the edge again and again for tens of thousands of years before the final extinction event most people know about. But that was only the beginning. The real bombshell came when researchers compared the ancient bison genome to modern cattle and to living bison species today. What they discovered was almost unbelievable. Hidden within the DNA of the giant Ice Age bison were genetic markers that connected them directly to the ancestors of domestic cattle. Somewhere in deep prehistory, these massive wild giants and the ancestors of the cows grazing in fields today share a genetic thread that scientists never expected to find so clearly preserved. It suggested that interbreeding between different bison lineages and possibly even early cattle relatives happened far more often than anyone believed. The clean, simple family tree scientists had drawn for decades collapsed the moment this data came in. If you are enjoying uncovering this Ice Age mystery with me, do me a quick favor right now. Hit that subscribe button and tap the like button on this video. It genuinely helps this channel keep bringing you deep dives into the strangest and most incredible discoveries buried in Earth's ancient past. And if you want to know exactly how this extinction mystery finally gets solved, stick around, because what comes next is even stranger than what you just heard. With the subscribe button taken care of, let's go deeper into what this DNA actually revealed, because the story gets even more incredible from here. One of the most jaw-dropping discoveries involved tracing the genetic pathway of these giant bison across 2 entire continents. Ancient DNA extracted from specimens found in Siberia and specimens found in North America showed a level of genetic connection that stunned the research team. It turns out these giant bison did not evolve in isolation on separate continents like many scientists assumed. Instead, the DNA proved that populations crossed the Bering Land Bridge multiple times over thousands of years, moving back and forth between Asia and North America as sea levels rose and fell with the ice ages. This means the giant bison you might picture on the American plains actually carry genetic fingerprints from ancestors who once grazed in what is now Siberia, thousands of kilometers away. The animals were, in a very real sense, world travelers of the Ice Age, and their DNA kept a perfect record of every journey. Even more astonishing, researchers used the mutation rate hidden in the DNA like a molecular clock, allowing them to estimate when different bison lineages split apart and when they later merged back together through interbreeding. This method revealed that the modern American bison, the same animal that nearly went extinct in the 1800s and now roams protected parks and reserves, is actually a genetic hybrid descendant of these ancient giants and a smaller steppe bison lineage that merged together near the end of the last ice age. The massive horned giants did not simply disappear into extinction with nothing left behind. Instead, their genes quietly persisted, diluted, and reshaped over thousands of years, hidden inside the very bison herds that still exist today. When scientists realized this, some described it as one of the most emotional moments of their careers, because it meant these Ice Age giants never fully vanished. A piece of them is still walking the earth right now. Then came the discovery that truly shocked every researcher involved in the project. When scientists compared body size predictions based on the DNA against what the fossil record showed, they found something deeply strange. The genetic diversity related to body size regulation began shrinking dramatically thousands of years before the animals themselves showed any physical signs of shrinking. This suggests that the genetic foundation for the species' eventual decline in size and population was already being written into their DNA long before the environment forced any visible changes. It was almost like reading an early warning sign buried inside the genome, a ticking clock that started long before anyone, human or animal, could have noticed anything was wrong. This finding forced scientists to rethink how they study extinction as a whole. For years, extinction events were studied primarily through fossils, looking at when and where a species physically disappeared from the record. But this DNA evidence proved that the seeds of extinction can be sown far earlier, hidden silently inside genetic diversity long before any outward sign of trouble appears. Some researchers have called this one of the most important shifts in extinction science in the past 20 years, and it all started with a few fragments of ancient bison DNA pulled from permafrost. Another detail that left scientists stunned involved parasites and disease resistance genes found within the ancient bison genome. Researchers discovered specific immune-related genes that showed signs of intense evolutionary pressure, suggesting these giant bison were locked in a constant genetic arms race against pathogens spreading across the mammoth steppe. As the climate shifted and warmed, new diseases and parasites likely spread into territories the bison had never encountered before. The DNA suggests some populations adapted quickly, while others simply could not keep up. contributing to the same repeated population crashes mentioned earlier. This means climate change did not just alter the landscape and food supply. It also unleashed invisible biological threats that the giant bison were left to face with genetic weapons that, in many cases, were simply not strong enough. Perhaps the most emotionally striking discovery of all came from analyzing the very last populations of these Ice Age giants before their final extinction. The genetic diversity in these final populations had dropped to levels so low that scientists describe it as a genetic bottleneck of last resort. Inbreeding had become common. Genetic disorders likely became more frequent. The population was not just shrinking in number, it was becoming genetically fragile in a way that made recovery almost impossible. When you combine this fragile genetic state with the arrival of increasingly sophisticated human hunters spreading across the same territories these bison depended on, the extinction of the giant Ice Age bison stops looking like a single dramatic event. Instead, it looks like the final chapter of a slow-motion collapse that had been building silently inside their DNA for thousands of years. What makes this entire story even more remarkable is what it teaches us about extinction happening right now, in our own time. Many endangered species today, from certain rhino populations to isolated big cat populations, show the exact same warning signs found in this ancient bison DNA. Shrinking genetic diversity long before population numbers visibly crash, increased vulnerability to disease, a slow, silent countdown hidden inside the genome. Scientists studying these Ice Age giants are not just uncovering the past. They are potentially building an early warning system that could help conservationists identify at-risk species today before it is too late. In a strange and powerful way, this giant bison that walked the earth tens of thousands of years ago might end up helping save species that are still alive right now. If this story has completely changed the way you think about extinction and ancient DNA, you are not alone. Researchers who spent years studying fossils alone describe this genetic evidence as one of the most humbling moments of their careers, a reminder that the full truth is often hidden far deeper than what we can see on the surface. Before we wrap up, I want to ask you something. If scientists can find this level of hidden truth buried inside frozen bones from 50,000 years ago, what other secrets are still waiting to be uncovered in the ice? Let me know your thoughts down. In the comments below, I read every single one and I love seeing your theories. If you learned something new today, make sure you are subscribed so you never miss the next deep dive into the mysteries hiding in our planet's ancient past. Hit the like button if this blew your mind the way it did mine, and share this video with someone who loves ancient history, extinct animals, or unsolved scientific mysteries. There are so many more incredible stories like this one waiting to be told, and I promise you, the next one might shock you even more than this. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.